A bit about this. We've heard about it in other shows, but every now and then a good photo comes along, and what's this plow all about?
Well, that is this rotary snow plow. That's the one that's pushed by 2 locomotives. And the speed pushing that plow has to be very slow, because if not, you'll block your wheel. That wheel can go counterclockwise and clockwise which way you want it to go.
Now, right now, she's blowing snow off.
You can see it
going off in the direction there.
That's really good snow for blowing, because she's really giving it a good heave. Sometimes you get late in the spring when we're up there, we get some wet snow. And that's tough, because that's the one that sticks the wheel, and it's so much delay trying to get through.
So what happens if it gets blocked up?
We just got to pull it back, the whole thing out of the snow cut and clean it out.
Well, how do you clean it
By
out?
hand. Chisel the snow if you can. There was ice there, somebody may have to melt it with a steam hose. It has to be clean and dry before we start pushing again.
So you might think of a snowplow as being a sort of a work aid, but in this case, when something goes wrong, it can certainly be work intensive, can't it, for you?
We see the snowblowers around town, and it's certainly a lot of different than what the rotary plow can do.
Yeah. So when did that go out of business? Last ones were used about when?
Well, the last trip that
Yeah, I think I got the...
When the CN came in, they had bulldozers and all kinds of materials to widen the snow cuts or ballast them up. And then we didn't require the rotary plow anymore. There was Jordan spreaders and many machineries that could do the same thing.
Right. What's this document I've got held up on the screen?
What you got there now, it's so ironic that I had so much to do with rotary plows. In 1964, at November 14th, that same rotary plow was being moved to Bishop's Falls and en route to St. John's to be scrapped. We didn't need it anymore. And I was lucky enough to be on that train that pushing that rotary plow east. Michael Murphy was killed under Crow Gulch. Switcher was piloting the plow because somebody had to be observing the road crossings.
Yeah.
And Walter McWhorter, my next-door neighbor and colleague, was the engineer.
So this document is the final paper.
That's the final train order that took the rotary plow out of existence, I would say.
Sent the plow away. Okay, so, you know, it's really great. I keep saying to people that come on the show, it's fabulous that you hold on to the information, never throw anything away, because it gives the younger people a chance, and not only the younger people, but other people who, over the years, have never had a chance to see any of this history. And you've got it all. Now, but let's talk about this. This photograph has a big story behind it. So tell me what this is, first of all.
That photograph goes back beyond my time. That's sometime in the middle 30s. The #1 express and passenger train was on its way from St. John's to Port aux Basques, and it had in front one double header steam engines and a plow. But preceding that passenger train was another double header steam engines and a plow, a work car, and a caboose. They tried hard to butt through a little place called Robinson's Marsh. That's about half a mile east of Robinson Station. And apparently they got stuck and were stalled, and that's it. They just couldn't get out. #1 came up with no communications whatsoever and decided they would detach the head locomotive with the plow and give the cut a clean run, so probably we wouldn't take chances of stalling the passenger train. So one engineer backed up, and when you go in for snow, you don't go tapping around. You haul it wide open and give it every bit of ounce of steam and pressure you got.
And not knowing, of course, that this other train had jammed on the other side.
Exactly. And the plow came in and it slipped the wheels right off the caboose and laid the caboose on top of the plow as if it was laid there by a crane. It was a comment made by one of the crew. And the other work car stuck up on end at a 45-degree angle.
Now consider the fact that the year that this was back in, as you said, the 30s. And the fact that we have 2 trains that had collided, and plus all that snow. How long would it have taken them to get all this cleaned up?
It would take them quite a while, for sure, a day or two, I would say.
Yeah, because it was no easy task.
Miraculously, Dave, there was nobody killed in that accident. That was a good thing.
Yeah,
no injuries, I don't think, whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention here that this guy here is my father-in-law. He was station agent at Robinson's, and he has his own key. This is box key. It's connected to the wire to the
so
pole. He's making all the communications there now.
Yeah, so there was. Now, we talked about that. When you say communication, we talked about this on another show, previous show, about the fact that one of the gentlemen said when you went out there and you were on your own. So,
Sure.
I mean, there was, whatever happened, happened, and there was no way to communicate whatsoever. Scary feeling in a way.
Oh, yes, certainly is.
Now, that photograph is going to lead me into this one, because I want to make sure I get this big one on. I want to hold this up because, apart from the fact that it's such a nice picture, this has got a little history behind it as well. So tell us.
Well, that's the Overland Limited, and you know, as time went on, they needed more cars on your train, more people traveling, so you needed the double header. Thanks be to God, there, as you noticed, they're burning crude oil, not coal. So a fireman had a good job working on those trains, and that one now is just running past Wreck House.
Which leads me to another thing I was just going to say to you.
McDougall's Wreck House.
Yeah, right. The fact that not only does it make for a great photograph because of the wide open country, but this just happens to be Wreck House. Now, do you have a Wreck House story that you can...
Yes, I have. A good one. We were leaving on...
Take this down.
We were leaving on a St. George's train to Port aux Basques. It was called the Milk Run, I called it, and we stopped at St. Teresa's and loaded a horse to be unloaded at St. Andrews. And some of the conductor and the engine crew, the older fellows, they knew when the southeast wind was sneaking up. They could smell it, so they say. So we stopped at St. Teresa's, but we had an awful problem trying to get the horse in the boxcar. Right? The Indian suggested one time to put a bin bag over the horse's head, and the conductor, one of our humor, and I can't say enough about him, Cyril Daniels. He was a great man. He could take you into a jam and bring you out of a jam and make you laugh when the times were rough. So he said, boys, you'll never do it. So one of the trainmen said, never do what, skipper? He said, you'll never get the horse in that bag. So anyway, they finally decided to stop that one, and somebody twisted the horse's tail, and they got the horse in the boxcar. And when they were ready to put the lungers and what we call lungers and rails to secure the horse so she wouldn't get hurt. What I should say to you before that all air goes through a train to each car independently, connected by a hose bag like this. And in order for the air to go through the rear end, you open a valve, and if a shot of air comes out, that's an indication that everything is okay, the air is going through. So at the same time, when they finished, one of the trainmen said, skipper, he said, is that okay now? The horse made an awful noise. Flanched it. We call it break wind, I guess. And anyway, yes, he said, I'm sure everything's okay, because I just heard the air go through. We continued on to St. Andrews, and he came up again. He said, we haven't got that boxcar on our train. So the engineer said to me, did you see anything fall off on your side? I said, we parted. We broke a coupling back there somewhere. We said, well, maybe he said had cars blown out of our train. So what we did was phone the section foreman, the Tompkins. He said, I know what you want. There is a boxcar up here lying on the side, and there's a horse in cuddled up, but he's not hurt. But you had to leave the door open for the horse to breathe, naturally, but that's the danger of those southeast winds when they come down. If they get in a car like that, they can lift them up.
So you lost the car, the horse?
You lost the car and the horse and the whole work.
Okay. Now, we're running out of time really fast here. I want to quickly go through these last few photographs. This one, on our mill basket show, we heard many stories about the small engines that were used at the paper mill. So just briefly tell us, what's this here? This is...
Well, that's the two, Boaters had two like that, the Sizzle and Saddle and Lima. They're camelback locomotives. They have their water tank spread right over the back of the boiler. And on the back end here, a little box to shovel the coal. So
they weren't going any great distances. They were just working around the yard.
They didn't require a tender.
Okay, so that's that one. Now let's this beauty right here. Tell me.
That's my first trip to Port aux Basques on a passenger train. We had to have 2 years' experience from to be able to run a passenger train as a fireman. And sometimes when they were stuck for men or emergencies, you got that opportunity to be able to take that run without your experience. I never had my 2 years, so it's an honor for me to make that first run on a passenger train.
Now, is this the same type locomotive as 593?
Mostly the same, yeah. They're different makes, but they're all basically
the same principle, and
yeah.
just looked so like a different model of a car or something. They were basically the same thing, but they just looked a little different.
Yeah.
And now we're almost out of time, so we have this one last photograph, and this, I think this one probably has a story that goes with it. So when we put this one up, you can relate to this. This is an ice sculpture from a few years ago.
Again, a friend of mine, a one-time neighbor and a colleague, he retired a bit earlier than the close-up came, and he really didn't know what to do with himself. His wife said, she said, "It's Carnival Week, Walter," and she said, "Everybody's out building snow sculptures. Why don't you go out," she said, "to see what you can do with one?" So he did, and that's his end result of his work.
Well, I tell you, if my wife sent me out to make a snow sculpture, she wouldn't get anything that looked anything near like that.
That's a great job. Great job, Walt.
Yeah, you can get. I think you won some kind of an award for that anyway. So
he did, I believe he did, yeah.
His efforts paid off. Well, before we go, just one last question for you. We're just out of time, so very quickly, would you have done it all over again with the life that you led and the history behind it?
I would love to do it all over again if I didn't have to shovel the coal.
Good answer. Don Smith, thank you for coming on our show.
Thanks, Dave. Glad
Thank you very much. Great to have you. We'll be back next week with another program for you. Goodbye.